When life throws you some technical difficulties, what do? Do you keep it moving? Do you just stop everything? Do you give up? We're all mature, we're all grown. Shit happens. I have a book, one of my books, my second book that I wrote is called 20 Beautiful Women. And I co-wrote that with 19 other women. And my chapter is chapter 7. And the title of that chapter is Adaptability 5.0. And the reason that I entitled it, or I named it Adaptability, is because I talk about in this section about some difficulties that I experienced, not just as an adult, but all the way back to when I was a child. But what I learned in those moments of difficulties was how to regroup, even before I knew what regroup meant as a 5-year-old. My first experience in needing to adapt was when my favorite uncle suddenly died. He had an accident. He ended up in the hospital, and he was in vegetative state for several days. And they went to my grandmother, and this was my twin uncle. So he had a twin brother, come from a very large family, and he was pushed over a New York fire escape, and he landed on the ground, and they took him to the hospital. So you got to make a decision. What do you do? So my grandmother decides to pull the plug, and that ultimately meant the end of his life. But this was my favorite uncle. Like, he was the one that named me Pinky. I was Pinky for so long. And there weren't, they weren't the kind of parents and the families, that types of adults we have now, where we really factor in the kids and we make sure that they're okay, and we make sure they're thriving and they can get through this difficult time. So I felt like I was kind of on my own because all the adults were reacting to it. But I had to figure out how to get past it, move on, how to deal and cope with all these emotions that I had, because this was my first experience with death. It's like when life brings you these technical difficulties, what do you do? So I learned at an early age I needed to adapt. I needed to move on and get past it so that other things could happen in my life, right? I didn't want to stay stuck. And then as I got older, more shit started to happen. Well, what I've learned, I was reading a book, and it talked about, not a book, it's actually a special edition of Time, and it's a happiness edition. And it talked about how there are people in our lives and people in life who will go through difficult times. And while some people are able to get over that much faster than others, it's called resilience. But they did a study. So there's research and there's numbers that back this up on all the neuropsychology that they did and the neurosciences behind how our brains are wired. And there are certain people who are made up from a brain perspective to handle, it's not that they are that much different on the outside, but it's something that's going on neurologically, that when they're able to get over their technical difficulties, those difficult moments in their life faster, their resilience is stronger. And so they've done studies with those who are in the service, the military, and when they have been met with trauma, who moves faster, who moves on faster, who gets over it faster, whatever that difficult moment is. So resilience. So I had to learn resiliency a lot sooner than a lot of others, particularly a lot of my friends, or even my friends now. And so 20 Beautiful Women, Adaptability 5.0 is really based on accepting the fact that life is going to bring you a whole lot of shit that you can't control. But what you can control is how you react to it. But there's coping mechanisms, right? We all have to develop these coping skills in which to process the tragedy or the difficulty. And then once we've processed it, how do we filter through everything we need to filter through? Adaptability 5.0 is really based on being able to adapt to life, bringing you all kinds of stuff, because the ultimate goal is to win. You're still here. My uncle died at 5, and then subsequently I've lost a lot more people in my life who I love dearly, but I'm still here. We're still here to make an impact, to make a change, to still be that person that God blessed us to be, or that we even ourselves want to be. So I didn't want to, I don't believe in losing. I believe in shit happening and we let it go. And I believe that we change and things alter. But I always believe in this winning spirit. I believe that it's important to always want to win. If you can't think about winning for yourself, there are so many other loved ones in your life that you can think about winning for and staying in this game of life for. So yes, life is going to bring us some technical difficulties. In my book, 20 Beautiful Women, I talk about, okay, so yes, at 5, that was my first experience with death. Well, then at 18, my father died. So I had to, again, be this resilient person and figure out, okay, what do I do? I'm in college. I'm not finished college. Do I go back home? Do I help my family? What do I do? And so in that moment, I probably didn't have all the right answers, but I was able to galvanize people who could give me some positive energy and a better attitude, because that was a technical difficulty in my life. I have lots of friends who still have both their parents, or at least one. I have neither. Both of my parents are deceased. Those would be two extremely difficult elements that happen in my life. But I'm able to be resilient and react to it in a way that I know is going to benefit me later. It's knowing that I got to put this energy out here in the universe so that that same energy can come back and bless me. Right? And I think sometimes people shut down, and I think that's quite normal. But I think you have to always be of the mindset to surround yourself with people who have a different mindset, positive attitude, and can bring you some of that good energy you need. Right? So you can keep going, because you need to do it for yourself. You may need to do it for your children. You may need to do it for your mate. You may need to do it for your family. When my father died and I was 18, I had just finished a semester in college. I am the oldest of 5 siblings. My mother was in New York, in Brooklyn. She didn't know what she was going to do with her best friend, who was no longer here. And I have a really good friend I'm still cool with to this day. He's my Morehouse brother. And I remember him saying, I said, well, you know what? I'm going to go home. I'm going to stay home. I got to help my parent. I got to help my mother out. My dad just died. I got to help my sisters out. And he said, how are you going to be any good to them with only a semester of college? What good are you going to be able to do? What job will you be able to get? And all you have is 1 semester of college. You're going to benefit your family more in the long run if you stay in school. And he was my age. But he gave me at that moment some wisdom, this energy. He gave me a better attitude. And it took a lot of people around me. It took a lot of friends. It took family members to help pull me out, because that was a technical difficulty in my life. And I needed to adapt to our new normal of my dad being gone. I needed to adapt to our new way of life. And I need to focus on putting out positive energy so I could survive to help my mother, so I could survive to help my sisters. It was a very difficult time in our family, very difficult, because my dad was the head of the family. He took care of his kids. He and my mother were best friends since they were teenagers. What were we going to do? I had no answers, but I was certainly around people who were giving me that energy, and it helped me to be able to put that energy out and then get it back. And then 6 years later, my mother passed. So here is another technical difficulty in my life. What did I do? The resilience. Where's the resilience that I need? I'm older now. I'm a little bit more experienced. I already have my degree because I did stay in college. And so certainly, yes, with a degree, I was able to help my family, help my sisters. And so those experiences propelled me. They made me stronger. So success breeds success. The more you are experienced with doing something, the easier it gets, right? Those who meditate, the more we meditate, the easier it gets to get into that meditative state. The more we understand that the boomerang effect, when you put out the positive, it's karma, right? You put out there that which you want to get back. Even if it doesn't come back from the same person, you put it out into the universe. So I believe in that. I believe that sometimes life is going to bring us technical difficulties. But I believe that we have to sometimes either pre-prepare for it, or we got to work our asses off to make sure that we stay in alignment to get the good back. Yeah. So for me, if you read 20 Beautiful Women, and you can find it on my website, lshbooks.com. For me, 20 Beautiful Women is really written because it's all about being able to survive technical difficulties. Because life ain't going to, look, parenting ain't for punks. Life ain't for losers. You got to be able to get in. You got to be able to dig deep. We are here for a reason. Some of us know it real well. Some of us figured it out. Some of us are still trying to figure it out. Some of us feel like we have multiple reasons why we're here. But we're still in a game of moving forward. We cannot let the difficulty stop us. We cannot let it end what we know that our purpose or our passion is supposed to be. And so I think that's the encouraging part of life. Life is going to bring us something. Shit happens. We got to learn to adapt. Right? We got to learn to win, because there are people here who need us, and there's so many more things that we have inside of us that we want to still get out. We want to still get out. I just wanted to come and remind you that sometimes life is going to bring you some technical difficulties, and you still have to figure out how to overcome, get around, and thrive in the process. All right, thanks for joining, guys. I'll see you soon. Peace.